Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hello, everybody. Spider here, Coming Soon podcast. With me today, of course, Guerrilla Metropolitana. My man, how are you doing, brother?
All good, Mario. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you so much. Bless you.
No, man. The pleasure's mine, brother. I mean, I'm glad you jumped on here, giving me your time. I do appreciate that. And of course, man, I mean, I am in Texas. I'm here in the U.S. Let us know where exactly you're at right now, bro.
I'm from London. I'm based in London, so we are kind of far away from one another, but I love Texas. I'm planning to go at some point next year if I can.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, man. Have you ever been to Texas?
I've never been to the United States. I'm going next year, but Texas is definitely on the list.
Wow. And let me ask you on that point, what's going on in Texas that you're coming to visit? I mean, are you just looking for?
No, I like rural America.
Okay.
A lot more than mainstream America.
Nice.
I like, states like Texas and Kentucky,
Okay.
Rural America, what I call probably real America.
Yeah.
The real deal.
No, for sure, man. Yeah, because I mean, it's just like with me here in San Antonio, man. I mean, it's a big city. It's getting bigger. A lot of people are moving over here from California and other states because of the taxes. I mean, we have lower, property value as far as houses are being
That's
sold.
what I like. It's all about the dude.
Yeah, man. But I mean, yeah, we still have that small town mentality, So it's great, man. But there's a lot of cities, small towns, especially here in Texas, brother. You'll love it, definitely.
I'm sure of it.
Cool, man. And of course, man, I mean, I brought you on here, man. I mean, you are a filmmaker. I mean, you actually have you've directed, you've done plenty of work, but you sent me 2 links last week that I was able to watch. And I'm curious to see as far as how your vision is when it comes to making these films.
I don't see myself as a traditional filmmaker. I see myself more like a painter with a camera in his hand, because the language I try to incorporate in my cinema is closer to the actual language of painting rather than the language of filmmaking. So I try to communicate things with the power of visuals.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I work a lot on the sonic factor, sounds, and because I am pretty much obsessed with aesthetics.
Yeah.
Most filmmakers, they try to tell a story and then they will try and find the right aesthetic for the film.
Right.
For me, it's the other way around. I try to use aesthetics, and through that, I try to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's the other way around. It's I think you can easily use as a metaphor, like the effect that one has when taking drugs. It's the same drug you're taking, but the trip you are experiencing might be different from the trip somebody else might be experiencing. So, and yet it's the same drug. So what I'm trying to create is a type of cinema that can work out in different ways according to people's sensibility and people's reaction and people's level of interpretations, and being able to receive information.
Man, I had never thought about it that way, but I like the fact that you talk as far as trying to use art as a way to get a message across, because when it comes to the lighting, the sound, it makes sense because it's like abstract. It's what you're looking at, what angle. I mean, as far as the films themselves, man. I mean, of course, Darius, for example. I mean, that one very powerful. I mean, there was a strong message. The fact that you used a lot of when it came to graphic, when it came to lighting, it was very, very strong. I mean, I couldn't help. I told one of my buddies the other day. I said, man, when I was watching it, I had to kind of put myself behind the camera so that I can see. Okay, what was he trying to visualize? What was he trying to look at, at the angles? And, I'm not a professional photographer, man, but I do love taking photos. And for me, it's always about angles. It's always about the lighting, about what I can capture in between the image. And, I like that. I had never heard it like interpreted like that, in other words. So that's pretty cool, man. I like that, bro.
I think it's interesting you say that, because when you're taking a photograph, you can take a photograph. You say you love photography, which is wonderful. So you should know that if you take a picture of something from one angle or from another angle, the perspective is radically different, and the kind of effect that has on people is different. Because I am more inclined to do diagonal, irregular kind of shots.
Yes, bro.
Leaving perhaps a quarter of the head out of the screen, and which can be seen in two ways. It can be seen like, oh, this guy is a sucker. He can't shoot properly. He can't film. Or it can be interpreted like, no, this is deliberate. So it depends which way you look at it. I always I always use examples like, whether it's painting or sexuality. You tend to go for things that are perhaps not common, and you want to explore territories that perhaps not many people would like to explore. So that's the way I look at it.
No, for sure, man. And of course, I mean, like I mentioned, the angles were what did it for me. I mean, the storyline, and that's interesting because I brought it up earlier before we jumped on here. But I mean, the storyline, I felt like it was in my head, because while I'm watching it, I'm trying to figure out. I'm thinking, okay, you know what? It's going to go this way, or this is going to happen, and it made me it hooked me into the film. So I was actually watching, paying attention. I mean, so I liked it, dude. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it was something. It was definitely a definite shock factor. I mean, it's not gonna be for a lot of people. I think you had mentioned or commented that it wasn't streamed because of the fact that of the visual, I guess, as far as what's in the video. But I mean, it is available through DVD. I would imagine.
Yeah, DVD and Blu-ray. Two or three companies initially they turned it down because of the sexual graphic violence. You have bodily fluids, you have incest, and all kind of things going on. But the shock factor, or it's there, but it's not the reason why the film is what it is. The film is more like a journey into madness, and it can be interpreted in many ways. I mean, some people, it's been very polarizing, this film, Mario, from the very start. Some people regard it as a masterpiece. Some other people regard it as a bizarre art flick. Pretentious art flick. There's nothing in between. There's no neutral kind of or indifferent kind of response, which is to me very interesting, because it shows you that in order to be creative, sometimes you have to go against the current. It's easy to go with the flow, and it's easy to make another supernatural film or another vampire movie. It's easy to go down the safe road.
Right.
The way I see it, part of the reason I'm in love with your culture, the American culture, as contradictive as it is, but it's based on one fundamental principle which I stand for, which is freedom. And the same criteria applies to any art form. What's the point in being a filmmaker if you cannot be truly free to do things that might cause some kind of controversy from some parties or whatever? The freedom to be what you truly are artistically, and that comes with consequences, mixed consequences. Darius is very much that. It's a renegade film that doesn't have any problem in showing incest, cannibalism, but at the same time, there's also forbidden love, which can go borderline with, things that are very, in these days and age, very controversial. The father in love with his little daughter to the point of, pleasing himself in front of the painting portraying her image. So these are things that can be very, very, very hot in
Right.
terms of subjects, but it's not exposed in a way that is purely gratuitous. It's a film about loss. It's a film about how we react to human loss. And
Right.
some people go mad. Some people find refuge in masturbation. Some people find refuge in alcohol, as we see in the film. Some people find refuge in incest, having sex with their own mother in order to run away from the pain of losing your own daughter. So the film deals with humanity on different levels, but it does not tell you, it just shows you without telling you through dialogue anything. So you work it out in many different ways. You can watch this film, Mario, reverse, literally backwards, and it will still make sense.
Nice. I like that. You know what? And one of the things I was gonna say too, because it gave me a little bit of everything, and one of them was the old style silent films, where, like you said, we have to interpret it the way we take it, and because it was open, it was like an open forum, and people are dealing with different issues in life are going to interpret it different ways because of what they want to get out of that movie, and that makes more sense now that you just explained it for me, because if I'm watching it and I'm having a bad day, or I'm going to be like, oh, okay, you know what, this is what I got out of this, so it doesn't mess with my emotions. It just kind of lets my emotions take over and decide which way it's going to go. So, man, that's a true masterpiece, bro. I got to give you that one. I wasn't thinking about that, but that's great.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And of course, I mean, like you said, I mean, there is a lot of when it comes to incest, there's a lot of people are going to turn their heads. There are films out there. I mean, here in America, especially about incest, about the father, the son, the mother, the son. One of the things, I mean, when it comes to me living here in the U.S., is when it comes to, like, for example, this happens a lot. Now, of course, older men, with a little girl, of course, that's a big no. Like, oh, everybody frowns upon it, and I'm like, okay. But when it's a school teacher that's a female and it's a little boy, now it's different. Now it's like, oh, hey, hey, good for him, like it's just, and that's still that she's still an adult. That's still a minor, and so it's kind of backwards when it comes to people how we should be dealing with this, because and it's all over social media. Like, people, they'll be high-fiving this kid for having sex with an older lady who's a teacher, and I'm thinking, okay, you know what, that's backwards, bro, because you can't say no to one and then be okay with the other one. But yeah, man. But I mean, let me ask you. I mean, being an artist, a painter. I mean, was this something that you were doing early in life?
My background is music and painting.
Okay.
That's my background. I used to be a drummer for many years. Technically I'm a jazz drummer, but I played mostly in experimental psychedelic bands. So a lot of the music, not all of it, but a lot of it comes from my former band or myself, experimenting with keyboards and percussions. And I always wanted to experiment at any level, Mario, sexually, musically, artistically, cinematographically, in any way. I wanted to experiment. My tendency is to experiment.
Yeah.
If I see you eating a cactus and I see you enjoying it, I will start asking you questions, Mario. I will like, what does it taste like? What is it? Can I try it? My tendency is to try, experiment continuously. I never was happy with what was given to me. I had to try myself. I had to experiment. Anything I've done in life, and cinema is the ultimate form of it. But my background is music and art. Yeah.
No, and I was gonna say for the record, I have eaten a cactus, and that's a Mexican delicacy. I mean, my growing up, my grandma, she put spices, so I don't know what it tastes like other than the spices she put on there, but but that's pretty good, man. But of course, man. I mean, you see, you've never been here to the U.S. I mean, as far as the process, I mean, what is it? Just a visa, passport coming over here?
Oh no, I'm planning to visit a friend. She lives in the south, in Mississippi. But I'm planning to go and visit her, and then visit Texas and other two states, perhaps, with my family. I will stay for a couple of weeks because America is such a massive country. You have to pick and choose where to go. You can't just go randomly. Texas is definitely one of the states that I have on the list. Like I say, I always like the freedom, especially of rural America. I mean, Texas is not really rural, but it is in terms of cultural freedom.
No.
It's detached from New York culture or from Los Angeles culture. I mean, it's more inclined to what I love about America. I mean, London is not very different from New York, but Texas, there's nothing like Texas.
No,
So
yeah.
in order to see Texas, you have to go to Texas because there's no other place in the world like Texas. And I think Texas, just like other places in the United States, you either love it or you don't.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between. It's like it's like curry.
Yeah.
You love it or you don't. And Texas is definitely on the list for me. I always been. In fact, most of my fan base is from your country, and I'm not surprised because the Americans, for the most part, are very open-minded people. They don't tend to judge. Most of them don't, contrary to the British, which are very judgmental. They are very stuck on their own, not all of them, but most of them. It's just in the culture, The Americans, because there's so much variety in the United States.
Yeah.
You have everything.
No,
literally everything. You name it, you have it. So maybe that's the reason. That's the reason why the Americans are more open to things.
No, for sure. And I was gonna say too, because coming to Texas, I mean, there's a saying, and I've done it before. Like I've taken a road trip from here in San Antonio towards Colorado, and it took me almost a whole day to get out of Texas, bro. That's how big it is. So it's a big state. And if you're gonna drive through Texas, it'll probably take you a whole day. So
I know.
But I was gonna say too, there are a lot of rural routes. Like you can take the main highways like 35 or I-10, but you can take other highways that are gonna take you through the scenic route, which is peaceful. I love it because it's a back road. It takes longer, but it's a lot more peaceful. You can kind of escape and just get away from traffic. But there's a lot of small towns here in Texas that I still haven't been to. It's like everybody talks about traveling the world, and I'm like, man, I still haven't seen all of Texas. It's like I'm still trying to visit like East Texas, the East Coast, and west of it. But yeah, man, I think you'll love it out here, man. I mean, it's definitely a great place. I mean, I grew up here. I'm gonna be biased, but when it comes to meeting people here in San Antonio, we've been like the military capital of the world because at one point we had 5 military bases. Now we're down to 3. But because of that, we have people from all over the world coming through here, all over the states.
I like the spirit of your country, Mario. I mean, in fact, my latest interview was a few days ago for a podcast called Horror Realm with Travis Bruce. Guy like you, American, made in US, like yourself, really cool guy. And you guys have in common, I mean, that kind of lively nature.
Oh yeah, bro.
Which is what I like about the Americans. The Americans are very lively people. Genuinely lively people. I haven't met that many unpleasant Americans, to be honest. Most of the Americans I've met and spoken to are incredible people, and I'm not surprised why 80% of like I said, my fan base is from your country and not from Europe, because in Europe I've been often judged as a perverse filmmaker. In America, they go like, what the fuck is this? This is cool, man. This is great. I mean, I've been also attacked by some American directors but for the most part, most of the support comes from your country, actually, which is great to me. I mean, one of the companies that bought the film is from your country, SRS Cinema.
Yeah.
That's an American company. They saw the film, say, we like it, we want to buy it. So, and that says a lot.
No, for sure, man. And SRS, I mean, I actually deal with the guys, and they work with a lot of indie filmmakers. I mean, of course, here in the U.S., I've been in a few of them. So yeah, great people, man. They definitely distribute,
Yeah.
greatly. So that's a good thing for you guys. But man, let me ask you. I mean, you talked about music. What music like inspires you? Do you listen to music while you're thinking about writing or doing other art?
Darius was largely conceived when I was in a state of trance. I was listening, as I often do, with my headphones, a demo I've done some years ago with my previous band called Monoxide, which is credited in the film. And we've done that demo of a couple of songs which were improvised, and we were on synthetic drugs when we recorded that demo years and years and years ago. And I was listening to the demo and I was hallucinating, in fact. And as I was hallucinating, I started writing things down. The things I saw, I didn't want to just let it go. So I started writing things down, like bubbles of images, and it was a series of drafts, which I did write. And then after the hallucination ended, I was left with this piece of paper with all these things written down. And then weeks later, I started to work on it. And but they weren't like one thing. They were like vignettes, different bubbles, different sequences. And that's how gradually the film was born. Largely conceived under the effect of hallucination when listening to, my demo. That's how it started. That's how my mind works.
Nice. And I was gonna say too, because just like a painting, I mean, you mentioned as far as like different webs, different visions, but when you're painting, I mean, as a painter yourself, I mean, as an artist, do you start like that? I mean, do you start painting one piece and then does it change into something else?
Specifically, the technique I used to use when I was doing drawings specifically was pencil powder. I used to use the actual pencil and sharpen it, and all the powder of the pencil, which is kind of dark gray. I used to use my fingers on paper and use that as a color,
right,
to create images. And the main thing in which I was particularly obsessed back home in my country, which is Italy, was nude women and men both. And I was very, very young. I used to have friends in my house, male friends, female friends, and often I used to ask them to just strip naked. I would like to reproduce you on paper. And so this was when I was around 16, 17, back in Rome. And so that was the main theme: sexuality, nudity, things related to sexuality, perversion, and also horrific stuff, but always with a sexual theme.
Right.
So that was pretty much because I see in sexuality, in the human body particularly, I see a lot of potential. A lot of potential, which is, if you, and I'm not referring to supermodels, and I'm not referring to perfection. I'm referring to the human body as it is.
Right.
As it is, not as the modern media portray it. And so I think that's how it started. And music, again, just like painting, just like, anything I've done in the past, was always about preliminaries, experimenting what kind of reaction this sound might produce subliminal sonic sounds. Always been my obsession. Darius is filled with subliminal sonic sounds, which the viewer only registers after a while, like the water drop.
Yeah.
Which
Yes.
is constantly there, but you don't really pay attention until you are 3/4 of the film. That after a while you go like, you only come to realize of the water drop when he stops.
Yeah. Yes.
So these are tricks that I've been working on. I like to fuck around, I think is the best way to put it, with the human mind. To fuck around with the human mind and see what kind of impulses I can get out of people's minds. Again, not for the sake of it, but because I like to stimulate people on different levels, even in a very diabolical, subliminal kind of way. Like, for example, are you sure you don't like guys? Well, I might stimulate some impulse in you. Are you sure you don't like, killing? Well, I might stimulate some impulse in you. Are you sure you don't like this or that? So my intent is always trying to find that crack, so I can work on it and see if something comes out of it, if that makes sense.
No, it does. You see, because back in the, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, I used to listen to a lot of techno. And techno music, for me, it's a trance. It's literally a trance. So when you're out there, it takes over your body, and you don't know what's going to come out of it. You might, look like an idiot dancing, or you might end up looking like somebody that knows what they're doing. But, for me, music's always been a powerful thing. It does change our emotion. It changes our mood. Sometimes we listen to soothing music, we relax, we listen to something heavy, and I was just telling my coworker the other day, I said, man, when I wake up in the morning, I got to put some hard music, because I'm like, let me get to work, let me get going, and, wake my body up. But it does control you like that. And it makes sense, like you're saying, to see what your film, when it comes to the noises, the water drop, what it stimulates, and what it, people, what you get out of people. Because just like in the film, you said there's no there's a story, there's something to be told, but it's us. We're the you're the brush and we're the artist, man. So it kind of feels like, okay, you know what? Let's see what we can make out of this. And
it's to me, it's about sharing an experience together. Darius was very much conceived with the idea of creating a synthetic film, a cinematographic version of ecstasy, and submit it to people, and then each person will trip differently, and they will have different interpretations. Some people would go like, what the fuck is this? Which did happen. And other people would go like, this is brilliant, and other people will try to give a rational explanation, unsuccessfully, but then when they gave up, they suddenly worked it out, because the film does not have any rational explanation, and yet it does seem to work together. There's something that makes it work, even though there's no dialogue, there's nothing, and the film does not even tell you who Darius is. Is he one character? Is he the other? Is he the name of the household? Is he just a prank from the director? Because I even, at one point, if you remember, towards the end of the film, there's on the screen, you will read, madness and syphilis have never been so good. And people have been asking me, what does it mean? And the answer to that is, I don't know, you work it out. Because madness, okay, we all know what that is. Syphilis is a disease you encounter through sexual activities. So obviously, sexuality and madness, sickness, this is not so bad. it's like with that kind of ironic spirit, and there's nothing to laugh about it because the film does offer a level of depravity which is almost unseen in films, and yet the director himself is laughing at it, saying madness and syphilis have never been so good. It's almost like a very bad taste kind of humor, in a sick context.
And I was gonna say too, because when it comes to the disease syphilis, I think that was what Hitler had. That they said that he went mad because it does affect the brain and it drove him mad. So that's
Yeah,
what I got out of it.
I didn't think of that,
Yeah.
but that could be again. You just brought it up. I mean, yeah, that could be an interpretation. Why
Right.
not? I
Because
didn't think of that. I mean, but it can be taken in that way also. I mean, this film can be interpreted in many different ways. Like I say, it's a film that cost me 3 mental breakdowns during the editing because I was obsessed with so many details. The sounds that were used were around a few thousand different sounds.
wow.
For some sequences, we used close to 400 sounds for one scene, hidden, modified, echoed, and the obsession for it has cost me, like I said, 3 mental breakdowns because I tend to be obsessed on things to the point of that I lose sleep. I stop eating. The only thing I do is smoking, but I don't drink, I don't eat, I don't sleep. I just focused on one scene, and that can happen for weeks. And the result, you can see on Darius. It's just over an hour long, but you can clearly see the obsession of the person who made it for anything. Everything involved. And like I said, for me, aesthetics is everything, Mario. You are a photographer, so you understand better than other people how the perception of something can depend on aesthetics.
No, yes.
Aesthetics is, in my opinion, everything. It's not just an extra, is everything. Maybe
No,
the only thing.
and that's one of the things, like I mentioned earlier, because I do cover combat sports. So when I'm out there cage side or ringside, I see other media people and I see where they're posted, and I always go and I look for something else. I'm like, you know what? Let me look at this angle because I want to get something that's different. I want to get a different angle. I want to get something rather, like you said, rather than the same thing, same photo. I mean, what's the purpose of me standing next to the same guy? I might as well just let him take the photos. So yeah, it makes sense because I do want to get a different angle when it comes to photography, different I mean, just to interpret it because while there's times where we always say here, like, you know what, if it goes to the judges, like you don't know what fight that judge saw because he might be seeing your backside, you're doing damage, but they're not seeing it because they're looking at it from the back. And the other judge might be like, oh man, he's seeing the damage. So it's like both of them like, oh, I give it to this guy, this fighter, and the other one will give it to the other. So it makes a big difference, to see which way they're watching, man. So yeah, this film, I mean, it's very artistic, man. And on that end, because being an artist, of course, it does give you different angles, different views, different, so interpretation is going to be on the person watching it. They're going to take it out for what they see it.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you so much.
No problem, man. But I mean, I'm intrigued, man. I mean, I am intrigued because there's a lot to this film now. I mean, talking to you, I know we're messaging back and forth, but I mean, being able to talk to you and actually hear you explain it and see how it is that you came about it, it does make a lot more sense. I see it.
I mean, what's the point, Mario, in being a filmmaker or a musician or whatever? If you can't be honest with yourself, what's the point? I mean, I'm working on my second and final feature film, which will be out to the public next year. It's called The Benefactress. It took me nearly 2 years and a half to find the actresses for it because it's a very depraved film in terms of sexuality. In fact, the former lead actress was from your country, was supposed to fly here in London, but she had some issues with documents and stuff. So I had to find another actress, which have been interviewed recently here from England. And she's the same actress who did the short film, which you have seen, Corporate Torment, Juicy X. So she's the one playing the lead, plus other two actresses. But the film is very, very depraved. And many women actresses, they were interested, but many others, they were terrified of the idea. Other actresses, I had their husbands threatening me, saying, if you cast my wife, I'm going to blah, 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 making threats. Because, and again, to me is, if you want to, again, one might ask, why do you want to make a film like that? Because one of the subjects in which I am particularly probably sensitive about is the hypocrisy of power. And the hypocrisy of power. And I tell you what, and the more power presents itself with the face of an angel, the more I am terrified. Because I rather have a devil, but at least I know I'm dealing with a devil, rather than dealing with someone who's presenting himself or herself as a benefactor or a benefactress, as the title of the film, but then in reality is an absolute monster. So this reality of, two faces and power has always been something that I wanted to really work on. And the film shows what I see in the very concept of not only power, but also what women can be behind closed doors. And that in itself, with a Me Too movement and all that stuff, which, don't get me wrong, these are great movements, but the problem that I have often with some of these issues, that they tend to turn political. Everything. You make a film where women are portrayed in a certain way, or you gotta be a sexist. Not really, because actually, I like women. I love women. But just because I portray women in a dirty way or whatever, it makes me sexist in your eyes. Maybe you are a prisoner of your own ideology. But then if you criticize pornography, then we should ban Michelangelo or Leonardo or any painting from the Roman Empire, which for the most part shows naked bodies. Are we going to get rid of that too? So how come when the Romans did it was an art form, when Michelangelo did it was an art form, but when a contemporary filmmaker goes along those lines, it's called an extremist, a pervert, sexist, or whatever. I don't buy that.
No, that's true, because they did here in the U.S. They went through this thing where they started banning things that were represented racism, or that people felt was like, hey, you know what, that was during the Civil War, that's racist, and they started getting rid of history, basically. And I turned 50 years old last week, and I've seen racism. I've dealt through the late 80s, early 90s, when they came to the KKK, marching, trying to march to your town, and but one of the things, and I always tell people, because towards the end, kind of like what you mentioned, for me, I'd rather have people dressed up in robes, representing the KKK, because at least I know who they are.
Yeah.
When they're not wearing the robe, it's when I'm terrified, because it might be the officer next to me, it might be the person, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like, I can relate on that aspect, because you don't know who's who, and like where I live, I live. It's not a bad part of town, but it's like I grew up here, and people are like, "Oh, you can move further up north." And I say, you know what? Here, I know who the drug dealers are. I know who the people that stay home. I know the people, so I know who's who, man. Like, nobody messes with me, because I already know if something goes missing, I know who to go to, and it just makes more sense for me to be here and just, keep, protect my house. But at the same time, I'd rather live here knowing who's who than move somewhere north where everybody's, suit and tie, and something goes missing. Then who am I gonna go to?
Yeah,
So
it's interesting you mentioned suit and tie, because suit and tie, again, not everybody. Obviously, I'm not generalizing, but
right.
often clean cut people scare me, because you know these are people that can ruin other people's life with a stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
And I think I have much more respect for a drug dealer, because a drug dealer can help you as a friend outside his business. People with suit and tie, unless they have something in return,
Oh yeah.
they, again, I'm not generalizing, but a lot of the times that's the case. People who claim to be better, they're actually worst. And people who appear to be the worst ones of all, they are not the worst ones.
No, that's true, and it happens with and not just even like drug dealers. I mean, there's times. I mean, I'm a contract delivery driver, so I deliver furniture. Like when I'm not at work, I do that on the side, and half the time I go to the same gas stations. I see the same homeless people there. I always buy them something to eat, and my thing is like they have nothing, bro. They're homeless, obviously. I'm buying. I bring them a pizza. I'm like, hey, you know what? I gotta, And they're like, oh, okay, and they're like, hey, have you already eaten? Go ahead and get a slice. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm offering you food and they're offering me a slice, and it means a lot because that means they're not selfish. They're not thinking about themselves, even though they might not have much. They appreciate everything they get, and it's like, man, it makes you humble, But yeah, there's people out there that are all about money, and of course, if you don't have money to give them, then yeah, they're not gonna help you, So I can see that. But of course, let me ask you. I mean, when it comes to being an artist, of course, I mean, on this one, the music was mostly yours. I mean, you were the composer for the most part.
In Darius, it was partially mine only, and partially my former band in which I was in, Monoxide.
Oh, okay.
So that's for Darius. And for the 19 minutes short film, Corporate Torment, I used a couple of copyright-free songs, and the rest I've done it myself downstairs with the keyboard using, special sounds. And but the music, once again, in all of my works, it's not just background. It's actually an actor. He plays a very important role. It's not just background noise, suspense, or eerie music, jump scare kind of stuff. No, it's actually almost like a theme that takes you from one scene to another. I mean, I can't. I mean, my instinct. You mentioned techno. My instinct is every time I listen to a piece of music, whether it's techno, jazz, punk, rock, or funky music, my instinct is to tap.
Yeah.
Because I'm a drummer, my hands are full of calluses because of the drumsticks. So my inclination, as I said on previous occasions, I'm a filmmaker with the soul of a musician, but the mind of a painter.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trapped between these two natures,
Right.
and consequently, the cinema I create is very much a mix of these two art forms. There's no dialogue. There's hardly any dialogue. I don't really pay attention to dialogues. In fact, even now that I'm talking to you, I am communicating with you a lot more by looking at you rather than listening to you. That's how my mind works. I suffer from mental illness, which allows me at the same time to be very sensitive to vibes.
Oh wow!
So
Okay.
I can immediately sense the vibes of a person, good, bad. So it takes me literally a second, and that's why my mental illness has a lot to do with my cinema. I can communicate so easily things without the use of dialogue.
Yeah.
And that's not because I am Superman. It's simply because I'm a sick man. I have this condition which allows me to communicate different levels. But then if you put me in front of things that most people will find absolutely normal, I will struggle. One of them, numbers. I struggle with numbers. If you put a number in front of me, 7 times out of 10, I reverse that number. If you put a 30, I will read, 03.
Yeah.
I don't like numbers, but I love images, and that's why my cinema is based on images, because that's what I'm good at, not because I study, but because that's my natural inclination. I look at someone, I talk to you, and I can see the vibes by looking at you. So really, what you're saying is confirming what I already saw, if that makes sense.
No, it does, and that's one the fact that you mentioned that you can kind of you communicate with images. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why your film is definitely. I mean, that's what it is, man. I mean, that's why I'm like, I'm intrigued in what you're saying, because it does break down exactly why, if people watching this and they're gonna watch your film, they're gonna know, okay, well, this is why,
Yeah.
because he's
Yeah.
showing us what he's thinking with all these different images, with the sound. I mean, the fact that you said, the being stuck between being a painter, a musician, and a filmmaker. I mean, it explains everything, because now it's like, I can go back now and watch it again, and I'm gonna interpret it a whole different way, man.
I mean, I would be in difficulties to. I mean, I give you an example. I mean, a very simple example. I will never be able to do things or short films that perhaps a film student will be able to do, but I can do far more difficult things. But then nothing else. I can I can do difficult stuff, but I struggle to do sometimes the most basic stuff, like I don't know, using the washing machine or whatever. This might sound silly, but it is pretty much how my brain works. I can't make a film in a traditional format with dialogues, with regular cuts in the same way that most films have, because I will get lost. I can only tell a story in a very irregular way, as if you just woke up from a hangover, and then someone is asking you, okay, tell me what you remember about last night, and you go like, oh yeah, I've been there, then I've done this, then I did that, and that's how I make films. I go in vignettes, this and then something else, and then something else, and then something else, and then I let your mind work the numbers. And if you can't work the numbers, there's nothing I can do. But I present you with something that I know, if you are open minded enough, you will find your numbers.
No, yeah. You see, and I mean, for me, like, let me say, I have a friend of mine, and this guy, I went to middle school with him, high school, and his parents were both, one's the mom was a pianist, the father, he used to play guitar, bass. They're both instrumental. He started playing, like, I mean, I'd go to his garage, and he's like, hey man, he put a song on, and he would listen to it, and he would play it, and so that's how he was able to, like, through hearing. Now, when he got older, he joined the band, and he was like, man, they're trying to get me to read music. I don't know how to read music. Like, I always tell him, hey, well, just start, and I'm gonna follow. And
Yeah.
so that's the way he was able to do it, and he was great, man. He's still great, he still goes out there and does what he does, and but a lot of, even back then, a lot of these bands were like, no, man, you got to learn how to read music, and so he was just like, you know what, I'll find something else, and he did, but I mean, not everybody can learn the same. Not everybody can express themselves the same. So, I mean, that's what makes you different because, of course, the way you're communicating with us is through film, through sound, through the light, through what you see, but yeah, man, I mean, and that's what I always refer to everybody as far as being an artist. But I mean, man, I mean, being that you're transcending everything through all these different art forms, I mean, that's being a true artist. Like you
I
said, you have
mean,
the freedom.
I don't call myself artist. I think I prefer to call myself more like a craftsman. Uh, but I think it's down to people to establish whether or not I'm an artist. But the point is, I'll give you an example. When I was drumming, I wasn't happy with drum kits. I wasn't happy with that one sound they gave me. So I had to remove the drum skin and put things inside the actual drum. It might be a piece of fishnet, it might be different kind of materials, aluminium foil,
Yeah.
and then re-put the drum skin on top of the drum and screw it back in, and then drum on it, and then see what kind of sound now I have. Or if I put the elbow, press the elbow on the drum skin, and then which is a technique used by the old school jazz drummer, and up with the drumsticks, and see if I move the elbow while I drum, will the skin, bending in a certain way and give different sounds. So these are the type of things that I like to do when I experiment. So what you said earlier on about this person who, from my understanding, he got almost shut down for wanting to try without being able to read music. That to me is pretty cruel because that's no different from murdering someone.
Yeah.
You're shutting someone down. It's like putting acid on a growing flower. You're killing that creature before even, reaches beauty. In my opinion, every person, you mentioned photography, other people, they might start at the age of 60 with a different art form. I mean, who are you, XYZ, to shut that person down? I think people, and that's the problem that I have, and I spoke about this on a number of times. I do believe these days the independent scene, not only horror, but the independent film industry in general, is heavily contaminated by the culture of formats. You have to stick to a format, and you have to be careful what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, not to show nudity, not to show this, not to show that. And part of my rebellion, which can be seen in my work, is a big F off to that. It's like, okay, so I'm not allowed to do that. I'm going to do that, which is pretty much the principle of rap music. Rap music would not even be around if we didn't have before that jazz music.
Yeah.
I mean, rap is a continuation of jazz. It's a music born out of protest, like the blues.
Right.
It wasn't born in music schools where rich white guys on Sunday afternoon used to send their kids to learn music. No, that was a music of protest.
Yeah.
And the same applies to my spirit when I create. There's a lot of protest because I see a lot of politics especially in horror. All these sensitive people that they get offended if women are portrayed in a certain way. If you show your own penis, that's offensive. Why is it offensive? You don't like it, don't watch it. Nobody's forcing nobody here. As long as there are no minors involved, obviously, as long as you don't go to disgusting territories. But otherwise, for the most part, an artist or a filmmaker, whatever you want to call it, should be free to to really tell the story he wants without any backlash. Oh, you've been offensive, you've been this and that. And I think that's the danger these days. I think independent cinema is trying to imitate only on a lower budget Hollywood. And that's not good, because we all know what Hollywood has become. Hollywood is nothing but, Tom Cruise and,
Fast and the Furious, and that's it, man.
I mean, good old Hollywood is gone a long time ago. So independent cinema, in my opinion, should be the alternative for filmmakers to say, no, we want to be free again. We want to be free creatures, free artists, and so we can talk about sexuality. We can mix horror and erotica or social commentary related themes with other things and so on. We can do all that stuff. I mean, my alias, Guerrilla Metropolitana, guerrilla comes from the type of technique I use, which is guerrilla filmmaking. I shoot without permits. I go out in people's properties with my pocket camera and I start filming. Will I get arrested? Maybe. But I've got the shot and it's here in my camera, and now I've got it. And I created a whole cinematographic world with that kind of guerrilla filmmaking approach. Darius is being filmed. A lot of the shots in Darius are in places where if I would have get caught, I wouldn't be here talking to you now. I would be sitting somewhere else. But it was so important to me to get that shot that I climbed the fence, that I managed to get access to that particular place, and I got that shot. So to me, that's the freedom that I'm talking about. I mean, if I would be interested in a building, in a high-rise building, I would find a way to have access to that building and walk around the edge on top of the building with a camera, because the vision is more important than the legal consequences.
Right.
That's how I see it. The vision is all. And whatever the vision might lead to, if my next film, like I said, there will be actresses working in a very sexually graphic film, and they say, yeah, we can give you that.
Nice.
We can give you that. We believe in your vision. It's not our vision, it's your vision, but we're giving you license to do it, so you can use us for that vision. And that is when an actress or an actor is totally, is trusting completely the vision of the director in which the film is taking place. I think that's very important. But when you have a situation where actresses or directors, even directors, are almost scared to ask, and everything is a compromise. I don't believe in compromises, Mario. I believe if that's your vision, you need to find the people who can be willing to help you to achieve that vision, not there to stop you or compromise or do halfway things, because at the end, you haven't achieved your vision. You only came to a compromise. And no, that's why I produce my films. That's why, because I could never have a producer saying to me, you can't show you ejaculating. I'm sorry. Guess what? I just did. It's in the film. Sorry, you can't show two women doing that. Well, guess what? I just did it. It's there. It's in the film now. So, you can't show that scene because it can be interpreted as if blah, 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 blah. Guess what? I just did. I have to be free to do whatever I want. That's the whole point of being a filmmaker. If I don't have that freedom, I might as well sell popcorn in cinema rather than making.
Man, and I was going to say too, because when it comes to being able to, say what you think. I mean, I know you don't want to go out there and say radical thing, when it comes to people, but like for example, like punk rock music. You know, back when, I mean, they used to use words like retard and midget, and now you can't say those. Now it's like, hey, you don't use those words. You know, so you can't express yourself using terminology that we grew up with. I mean, that's what,
Yeah,
you know, when we were kids, this is what we used to say. And of course now, you know, the now or we whatever movement is, you know, going around, and they're trying to cancel everybody. And it's like, okay, so now, you know, the same thing with punk rock music. A lot of bands were getting shut down because of what they did or on stage or said on stage, and now they're misinterpreting what they meant because they
yeah.
took it a certain way. And it's just like, man, okay, well, that's the whole thing about being an artist, you know, especially with punk rock music, man. You want to be able to go out there and yell and scream and you
I
know,
mean, you're never gonna please everybody.
yeah, no, no,
Never. I mean, take for example Tupac.
yeah,
Tupac with his music has caused a massive polarization. Some people loved him, some people hated him.
yeah,
Some white people loved him, and some black people hated him. And that's Tupac.
yeah,
But there are millions of examples. You're never gonna please everybody unless you truly make an effort to do something that pleases everybody. And I always bring the example, but again, not uh, to say anything bad about a man. I mean, Steven Spielberg is one of the greatest filmmakers in history, but I often criticize the Spielberg syndrome, as I call it, because it seems to me that is what Hollywood has become.
yeah,
Pretty much an industry there making all these films that will make you cry because they wanted you to cry. Almost commanding people's emotions rather than leaving people, the audience, free to choose what to feel. In Spielberg's films, you have the hero, already from the start
yeah,
who's going to win, who's going to lose. It's going to have a happy ending anyway. So already everything that needs to be, So, um, and I wonder, okay, that's great, but what's the point?
yeah. Why sit through it, right?
What's the point? I rather have something that gives me the freedom to choose. Um, do I like that character? Can I identify with that character? Is he a serial killer? Yes, he's a sick bastard, but guess what? To some degree, I can identify with him. And there's nothing wrong with that because serial killers are humans. We are humans.
Yeah,
So, what I try to do, whether it is successfully or not, to some people, yes, to some people, I'm just a sick bastard, is to question things rather than be judgmental.
right.
I mean, you can relate to a serial killer even without being a serial killer. And that
Right.
doesn't make you a bad person because you're not going to follow the same footsteps.
Right.
What you're doing, you're just doing an intellectual reasoning, an elaboration of things. And that is something that always fascinates me. The fact that people can make an effort in trying and explore different territories without becoming that person, But
No,
yeah,
no. You see, and of course, man, and it's all about being able to express yourself and decide what it is that you're going to be leaving or feeling that day before you the film's over. I mean, you go home and I
yeah,
mean, whatever which way you go about thinking after the film is done. I mean, that's on you, But I mean,
yeah. I
but yeah,
mean,
filmmakers.
if you look, it's all about artistic freedom, and I would like to see more filmmakers. There are filmmakers out there, but I don't think there's that many who are uh, truly free. They all want to follow some kind of criteria, whether it's a franchise or they don't want to upset producers because otherwise their career is over. Um, it could be a number of things. I didn't become a filmmaker because I wanted to have a career in Hollywood. I knew from day one that my work was going to cause some kind of controversy. And it was not an easy choice for me to make, because by doing that you are exposing yourself a lot, not only to criticism but to other things as well. So it wasn't an easy decision for me, and especially doing a film like Darius, which has a lot of me. When I was, an addict, the film contains that. The film contains indirect suicidal references. Again, that's something that at one point in life I experienced. So there are many personal metaphors hidden in the film and then portrayed in various fashions. So you are exposing yourself to various things. Yeah.
No, for sure, man. And of course, I mean, and I'm sure this new film that you're working on. I mean, when are you going to be going into production for that one?
The short film Corporate Torment, it's currently on a festival run. It's been accepted by a couple of American festivals and turned down by one festival because they say we don't accept pornography. So that's too much, and it was turned down. And it was accepted by two, like I said, and there will be more to come, hopefully. The deadline is on November, and then it will be out to the public on December. And that will be, again, just like Darius, will be polarizing, because the few podcasts that have seen the short film, they loved it. They say, this is great. It's brilliant. But I do know once it's out on December, there will be also people who will say, this is sick. This is blah, 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 blah. And, again, I could not care less, because, again, it's about power. And I wanted to portray power and what power creates, the consequences of power. When you're insulting or humiliating someone, the other person, deep inside, he would like to see you dead. Just because he doesn't do it, it doesn't mean that his or her feelings are not like that. So what I try to do with this short film is to put into reality the consequences of humiliation.
No, man, and of course, like I mentioned, I mean, before we even got on here, I had messaged you, and I mean, of course, I did watch the trailer, and on the same concept, I looked at it, I watched it like if I was behind the lens, I was trying to get to see what you were trying to interpret, when it came to the film. I mean, of course, corporate on there. I mean, I kind of figured it was about power, so I said, okay, you know what, let me see which way that it goes, But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to shun it. A lot of people are going to look away from it. Like you said earlier, it's not for everybody, but those people that don't want to watch it, of course, all they can do is not watch it. So
yeah, exactly.
Easier said than done. So those that want to pursue and follow up, and of course, follow you and get to see what else you're coming up with, man. I mean, that's their freedom, that's their choice. So of course, they can very well do so. And
yeah.
I mean, when it comes to social media plugs, man, where can people follow you at?
I do have a YouTube channel which has all my previous short films and the trailer of Darius. This short film that I've just done, which will be out in December, will be on YouTube, but that will be my last YouTube short film. And after that, I will work on my second feature after Darius, The Benefactors, which would be just like Darius for a DVD and Blu-ray distribution. Now, because of the sexual graphic violence, I will have to look for distributors. We'll see SRS and whatever else is on the plate, willing to buy the film, because the film is, like I say, it's very extreme in regards to sexual violence, and it's all shot in meta cinema, so through the eyes of the hand camera from the director's perspective. So I appear in the film doing things to these actresses, and and it's all seen by the director's point of view
Right.
as he's filming. So it's very much the film within the film, and it's very real. We're gonna be shooting for 2 days and 2 nights in this rented luxury property in London. Me and the actresses.
Nice, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a madhouse. Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you talked earlier as far as with the name Guerrilla. I mean, is this something you're going to be doing Guerrilla style as well? I mean, going into
Yeah.
some place.
Yeah,
Oh,
the owner of this house does not know the use that we're gonna use his house for. We're gonna rent it, but he doesn't know the use for it. He knows it's just for a party, but it's gonna be a film set.
oh yeah. No, I'm sure, man. For those that have
Yeah,
followed,
more gorilla than that.
man. Well, I mean, and I was going to say, because those that are following, and of course, go to your YouTube. I mean, they're going to get a feel of what it is you're trying to portray and get across when it comes to the message, through your art form, and So yeah, man. I mean, it's not, like I said, it's not going to be for a lot of people, but those that, of course, want to keep following up and pursuing this and getting to know you more, then by all means, they can definitely follow you. You are on Facebook, of course. Instagram. Are you on Instagram?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, I mean, everywhere.
God,
And after the benefactress, like I said, there's a writer. Her name is Del Gibson, from New Zealand. She is already preparing a book on my cinema.
Oh, nice.
Called "Searching for the Perfect Butterfly: The Shocking Cinema of Guerrilla Metropolitana," which will be out after the second film, The Benefactress, will be released. And in that book, there will be a lot of writing, obviously material, photographic material. It will be a quite powerful and graphic book. And it will be out. So that will kind of put an end to whatever legacy there might be of my work.
And let me ask you, because when you say images, there are going to be a lot of behind the scene photos from the films. Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, and actresses in especially the more recent ones. I mean, in Darius, you've seen the type of scenes actresses were involved in, and it wasn't easy to find actresses for that film. And for the next one, The Benefactress, even more. I had actresses who were interested, but they didn't want their husband to know. And then at the end, they changed their mind. I had, police women who wanted to be in the film, but they didn't want the police force to know.
Oh, man. Okay.
I had all kind of situations, married women, mature women, younger women, all kind of women. But for one reason or another, they could not do it. So at the end, I found these three actresses. One is from your country, in fact. And the third one has no acting experience. And yet she will be working as a supporting actress, and she's just perfect for the role. And again, sometimes non-professional actors can be even better than professional actors, because you can mold them according to your vision. I can see you, Mario, and say, okay, Mario, guess what? I would like to cast you in my next short film. You might say to me, I have no experience, for example, just to give an example. I say, it doesn't really matter, because I create a performance out of you. So again, it's about the vision. You can turn everyone into an actor if you have the vision. There's no, I never believed in the formula that the actor makes the film. No, the director makes the film, and the actor is his creation. That's how I see it. It's not the other way around. It's not like Hollywood has become these days. Tom Cruise in blah 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 blah. You never hear the name of the director.
Right.
That to me is very wrong, because that's insane. That's insane. I
No,
mean,
that's true because you don't, unless they're doing a breakdown and they bring up the director's name, then okay. But other than that, it's always the stars of the film,
yeah,
right?
I mean, when I watch a Spike Lee film, I mean, the last thing that comes to my mind is who's the actor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know Spike Lee as a director,
And
I know what his vision is, and I know whether he cast a top class actor or just an unknown from the street, I know he did that out of a specific choice, not by mistake. So because I know his vision, so that's how I see it. It's the director's vision that creates the actor.
no, yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, but for you guys to get the credit, of course, you guys deserve it. You guys are the ones creating this, and it just makes sense for people to know who's behind the characters because you guys are making them happen. So
Yeah,
definitely makes a lot of sense, my man. I mean, bro, I do appreciate you jumping on here. I'd love to bring you back on, man. I mean, I definitely got more questions. I got more content, as far as what I want to bring up. But
anytime, brother. I'm here anytime.
You got it, bro. Well, don't hang up yet. Everybody out there, of course, once again, go ahead and follow Guerrilla Metropolitana. My man's on Facebook, on YouTube. Go to Instagram. And this is Spider. Once again, coming soon podcast. Till next time, follow up.